Okay, so we're live. Okay. So welcome, Rick Fenny, to the studio, to the interview today. It's
Thanks,
not
Mike.
6 p.m. I can't. So I'm welcoming you with cinnamon tea. How's it? Cheers.
Oh, well, I'm waiting for a coffee. I haven't had one yet. I'm in the main street of Broome, and
Okay.
my friend Marie is getting the dog, and then she's going to get me a coffee.
Wonderful. There's a warm up there because it's here. It was 6 o'clock here in Perth this morning, but here in Shoalwater, 6 degrees. What's the temperature up there?
Oh, it's a beautiful day. It's probably about 30, I suppose, thereabouts.
Wow. Okay.
We're up here to sell my book to a few outlets in Broome if I can, and
Right.
I'm going to the markets, Broome markets tonight and Saturday, Sunday, and hopefully sell a few copies there.
Great. Well, let's hear about Rick Fenny. Okay. You're a vet. Okay. You've been a vet for what, 50 years? Am I right?
50 years? Yeah, we're going to my 50-year reunion later this year.
Wonderful.
It's actually my 51st year. It was delayed for a little bit due to COVID. But I've had a very rewarding career as a vet. I've loved every minute of it. I've had its ups and downs, but it's been mostly up. And it's been very kind to me. And the north of Western Australia has been very kind to me. I've had most of my career has been in the north. My first job was in Derby in 1972. And that's why it's great to be back here in Broome. Back in the old country that I was in 50 years ago as a much younger Rick. I was only 22, 23, and had a great time here. And that's going to be the basis of
those photos, I think, of your first mobile clinic with you standing outside
I was
the door.
working for the government. No, in those days I was working for the state government as a Department of Ag vet, and we did a lot of work on the stations and the little towns, and so I was employed by the government, but I saw the opportunity to set up a practice. I should have set up in Broome, but Broome was pretty quiet in those days and didn't think it'd carry a practice, so I set up in Karratha or Roban. I was going to set up in Port Hedland, but I chose Karratha, and Roban was the only place I could get to find accommodation, so it officially started in Roban in 1976, and that's the basis of my fourth book. I'm basically writing 4 books about 4 different eras of my life, and I can talk about that now if you like.
No, let's wait a bit. Let's hear a bit more about you, because you've done a lot of stuff. I mean, you're well known from in the book Red Dog. You were Red Dog's vet from all through his life, I believe. Did you hear
for
me?
sure. But here comes my dog now. Margie, say hello.
Okay, where's Margie?
Margie, say hello.
I can't see it. She's a bit low. I have to pick her up.
Yeah, so get up. There she is. Margie, come here. Lift the head up. There's Margie. Margie's Red Dog number 21, probably. I've had a few red dogs.
She's a bit cautious there. She got her ears back. Yeah.
That's
What is she, like a dark brown?
Margie's the dog. Don't get him confused. Anyway, I've had a pretty good career, and it's been the North's been very kind to me, like I was saying, and been mostly based start off in Karratha, then we spread our wings a bit, and I started practice in Perth, in Victoria Park, which we still own, because I like to build things, but then I don't like to let them go, so I end up I accumulate things, whether it be vet practices.
All of these vet practices, pets and vets, they're all yours, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple of partners a little bit involved as well, but mostly they're mine. Mostly the ones I've started, and quite enjoyed doing. So at this stage, we've got about 10, and mostly in the north with Karratha and Hedland, Newman, Tom Price, Exmouth. We're also in Perth with Victoria Park, Lathlane, and Mirrabooka. We're also at Kalgoorlie, and also down Albany, which is my hometown. At one
You're
stage, I
studying
did have a
Albany
couple
boy,
in
eh?
England.
Okay.
Albany,
Because,
Lockie Avenue Vet Hospital in Albany.
because it's down there in Albany where you have your 5-star resort, when I call it that.
Yeah, I got Matraya down at Albany, which is it's probably my folly. Because I really loved Albany, and that was one of the best places around. Built by a guy called Paul Terry, that any older listeners or viewers may remember. He was a very successful entrepreneur in the 80s, and he built this beautiful property out on Nannarup Beach called Matraya, and I was lucky to buy that about 15, 16 years
But
ago.
what led you to
But
that,
it
Rick?
keeps me poor. Sorry?
Rick, what led you to that from from having these 10 vet practices and say, oh, I'll just build a resort? It's a bit of a leap.
No, I didn't. It was the fact that I'm an Albany guy through and through. And excuse me, Marie, get a coffee. Give me the dog when you go and get a coffee.
What?
Yeah. It was just sort of the logical thing, because I loved Albany, and it was my hometown, and it was the best property in Albany on the beach, and I always liked beachfront stuff. And so I ended up with Matraya for my sins. But it sort of keeps me poor,
Beautiful property.
but it's a beautiful place.
And your other interest is that aquarium on the road from the Billabong Roadhouse into
Shark Bay.
Denny, in Shark Bay. That's
My
yours as
son
well.
and I, my son and I took that over as a reasonably rundown setup about 17 years ago, and he's built it up. He's done most of the work there. He's built up into quite a top facility. It's called Ocean Park, and it has meals and coffees and tours, and we've got 3 boats, and we'll be doing eco tents there soon. So it's pretty special. Everyone gets an education
my
on
wife
the Ocean Park.
it was about a year back. My wife and I were there.
Right.
We went to the Ocean Park, and
pretty special.
we had lunch there, actually. If I recall,
Yep.
They do a very good job. I think it's their own thing called a pepper squid. Peppered squid.
Pepper squid. Yeah. Well, that's not bad. Yep.
Yeah, that's. I don't know why I suddenly thought of that, but anyway. Yeah. So with all of this going on, Rick, what actually led you to be a writer, to start writing, or had you always been a reader and a writer? What came first?
I guess everyone leaves something behind, and I wanted to leave in my legacy a story of something remarkable that I'd done, and probably the most remarkable thing media-wise I'd done had been involved with the Red Dog movie, and I was involved with Red Dog in real life. I was Red Dog's vet, and I was always going to write about him, but wanted to write about him my way. Because I knew there's lots of other books and the movie and plays and poems and everything Red Dog is out there, but I sort of wanted to do it my way. And I've got a lot of unique stories about Red Dog that I want to bring out, but I couldn't just blurt it out. I thought, this has got to have a beginning. So I hit on this idea of going right back to when I was a little boy with my first Red Dog, and go from there. And then it occurred to me, quite remarkable actually, that I had a Red Dog at each major era of my life. So my first dog I had when I was a little boy in Albany. So that's the basis of book 1, called Pip, my first Red Dog. And that writes about those years up until I was 18. And when I go to enter the second era of my life, which is go to Queensland, to the vet school in Queensland, because West Australians had to go over there to do vet. And book 2 is about the second Red Dog I had, called Kelly, all about the era of being in Queensland and at vet school and coming home to WA every summer. And I had 5 years over there, mostly with that dog. And then I got my first job, which is up where I am now in the Kimberley, Broome and Derby. And my second Red Dog was killed the first week I was here. but luckily she just had a litter of puppies. So book 3 is devoted to Marnie, the third red dog, and all about my years in the Kimberley. And then, as I was sort of mentioning earlier, when I was in the Kimberley, I saw the potential emerging of the Pilbara with Headland and Karratha. So in 1975, I went down there and started my own vet practice, based in Roban initially, but most of the people came from Karratha, and we still have that one.
But which of these books have you written so far? Which of these books have you written so far?
I've only written the first one.
Okay.
Book 1 is up at the moment.
Can you hold it up to the screen, please?
Yep. Here it is. That's Red Dog Vet.
Oh, okay. Is that actually you? Is that you with the dog?
About the book. But feel free to have a look. Yeah, a little bit. I was there, and I was on the back is Red Dog himself. I was Red Dog's vet.
That's right.
You're joking. Don't go away. I'm doing this interview, then we'll talk. So
you're talking to a passerby.
Where were we?
I said you talking to a passerby.
Yeah, that's right. Here we go. You can talk to this lady if you like. This is my friend Maureen.
How are you?
Where were we? Yeah, so
I was asking on the front of the book. Is that you as a little boy?
Yeah, that's me as a 12-year-old. Where is it? 12-year-old boy with my first red dog. We're trying to get it right. Yeah, that's me at 12. In Cliff Street, Albany, and on the back is red dog himself.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was book 3 is about the Kimberley. Then book 4, the fourth era of my life when I went to the Kimberley. I went to the Pilbara, and that's where I met Red Dog. So book 4 is all about the Pilbara and Red Dog, and stories about the Pilbara, stories about Red Dog that never been heard before. So
now where do you actually where do you sit and write? I mean, I know you do a lot of traveling from one practice to the other, and you go to cattle stations. So where do you
usually do it at when I get a clear moment, usually in the early hours of the morning. Wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock, and I'm having ideas going through my head. So I thought, damn, I can't just leave these ideas in my head. I better get them down. So I go out to the laptop and I start writing. I get those ideas down, and it could be anywhere in the book that I hop into, and then one thing leads to another, and I end up writing I like to think I could do 1,000 words while the concentration's good, and then that might be it. It might be it for a week, or it might be it for a couple of days. So yeah, I just do it in bursts like that, and I haven't done anything for probably a month now for book 2, but I know I'll get into it. But I need to have clarity of mind and quiet time, and I've got to be in the right mood and moment, and then away I'll go.
But as you travel such a lot, typically where do you sit? In your caravan or where?
I don't have a caravan, but wherever I am, I can be anywhere. I've got several houses around Western Australia. I went to Albany for quite a time. Did a fair bit of work down there. I've got a house in Perth, a house in Sharp Bay, and a house in Roban. So any of those 4 places.
Sorry, when we spoke and you were in the Broome Caravan Park, were you sort of in one of the cabins there, were you?
Say again?
When we spoke last when was it, last night? About
last night,
you were in Broome Caravan Park. I thought you were in a caravan.
Oh, we've got a little camper trailer. It's the worst rig in the whole park. It's it's an ancient old Albany camper with a canvas top that you pull over, and no mod cons. But what it does, it gets off road, and we've been into places this last week that you wouldn't get into one of those beautiful big rigs in. It was quite funny today. A guy opposite me, he was He said, I like staying here because I let you wash your caravan. And he said, I get really worried about my caravan because I'm on the road for a few days and it gets dirty, so I've got to wash it. And then he's looking down his nose at my grubby little camper van full of dust and mud and everything. So, but that's what's happened. People are too scared to go off the bitumen and too scared to get their vehicles or their caravans dirty. That's why I don't mind my modest little camper trailer.
So where would be the interesting or strangest place you ever sat down to write?
It was probably just recently, actually, when I was at this little place called Condon, which is north of Port Hedland, and it's a little creek, and we're the only people there, and it was just beautiful and calm and serene, and I found I had my laptop would work, so I opened it up and I did a little bit, not a whole lot, but I did a little bit of writing then because it was beautiful moment for it. But that's at this stage the most recent unusual place. But
Okay.
But generally I wait till I'm settled down in one of my houses and in a pretty good state of mind to do it, like I was saying.
And how many words or pages do you aim for in your books?
Oh, got no idea. The books themselves, book one is about 50,000 words, and I plan to have all 4 books about that size, about 60,000
About 50,000.
words.
Huh?
And that's the only statistic I know, because the laptop tells you how many words there are.
They do.
And that's why I get a sense of achievement when I think, oh, I've written 1,000 words today. That's good. I've earned my breakfast.
Yeah. I know how it feels. You feel a bit driven by the word count at the end of the day.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know it becomes becomes a bit of an obsession. I read, who was it? I think it was the writer. Someone asked the writer Dylan Thomas one day, "How many words did you write, Dylan?" And he said, "I wrote 7 words, but they were all good words."
Yeah.
I think the message there is so long as you get good words down each day, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
was
think people
talking to
get
another
these.
author once who said if she can write a sentence a day, she's happy. And
Yeah,
it
no, I
has to be
know.
good.
As long as it sounds like it's right, okay, then that's enough. You got to sort of have a target, I guess, to aim
For
for.
sure.
But
Yeah, well, and you do get carried along with it. And someone said to me, if you can tell a good story, you can write a good story. So I enjoy telling a good story, and I do try and see it through the eyes of the reader. And if I think it's funny, I think most people should find it funny or entertaining. But yeah, you got to be aware of it. And unlike academic books I don't think academics consider the reader very much. But I guess you got to be very aware of the reader and make it readable. And that was the aim of this book. I wanted to write a legacy for my family and to record what I've done. But I thought, well, most memoirs are deadly boring because it's just putting down the facts of Aunt Martha and Uncle Charlie and what they did next. It can be very, very boring. So I thought, no, I've got to make it a true legacy, a true account of what's happened, but I've got to make it entertaining so that anyone will enjoy this book. So that's what I've set out to do, and having a good editor has helped me a fair bit. Victoria helped me a lot with
I agree with that principle. It has to be entertaining.
Yeah.
It has to make the person want to turn the page.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It comes back to it.
Now, your book is it? I know it's based upon true events. It's a bit of a memoir, but have you written it as a non-fiction memoir, or is it? Did you turn it into fiction?
Yeah, no, it's meant to be pure, all true, all the way through, and So no fiction at all, no characters invented, all true characters.
But
I've tried to ask permission as much as possible to use people's names, and so far most people have agreed to that. But it's meant to be a true account of exactly what happened. Same thing when I get to the Red Dog stories; they're going to be true stories, not fictionalized like I was in the Louis de Benali's book and in the movie. That was all fiction, based on.
well, it came to just now that
there's a plane. It's a plane taking off.
I was going to ask. So, is there dialogue, or is it all just narrative of what happened? I mean,
sorry, the plane just went overhead. I missed that.
I said, is it all narrative in your books, or is there dialogue? I mean, is it told with dialogue, with characters talking to each other, or what? How's it constructed?
I think it's just me telling how it was, just recounting it in mostly in the first tense. But I'm thinking of when there's a few stories about me going forward, putting it in someone else's words, saying, I remember the time then when Rick turned up at cricket training with a dead cat in our cricket kit, and as from a mate of mine who I'll tell through his eyes that he opened the cricket kit and here's this bloody red dead cat in there, and I said, Rick, what's this cat doing here? And Rick said, I meant to drop that off the burial on the way here. Sorry about that. So yeah, a few things like that where I could use another person to tell the story, because otherwise it's too much of I did this and too much of me in it.
Too much narration can be a bit.
So I'll try. I'll try and break it up like that.
And you did make some comments about literary writers, how they tend to be a bit boring.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if it's too academic to me, it's maybe factually correct, but it can be a little bit boring. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, let's sort of lead on to what with what you want to do with these novels. I read the book long time ago. Okay. So when I heard about the Red Dog book, the original one way back in when it came out in the early 70s.
The Louis de Benali.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you read the Louis de Benali book, did you? Yeah. The fictionalized one.
Now, I'm interested in what you're doing because, and I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here, is that it is a very good story. What I would question is that was it written as well as it should have been? That particular book, because it's a great story. Was it written as well as it should have been? Because
are you talking about Louis de Benali's book?
Yes. I'll probably get a lot of negative comments having said that, but that's just my view. When I read it, I thought that's a wonderful story, but gosh, it could have been done better. I think.
I agree entirely. I think when I met him, I said, Louis, you could have made this so much better if you bothered to look me up, or I could have fact checked a lot of things for you, made it a lot more factually correct, and I could have given you a few more stories. And he was actually very arrogant about it. He said, I spent a couple of days up in Karratha and Dampier and I heard about this story, and so on the way back to England I knocked up this book. It was the quickest book I've ever written. It took me a few days, and I thought, you arrogant so-and-so, you could have put a bit more thought into it and come out with a much better book. That's my opinion anyway.
Well,
but it was a bit.
We're disparaging his book in that, but the characters didn't sound like Australian characters to me. He seemed to have lost the essence of that in it,
Yeah, well, he captured it. He certainly captured a few of them, because the Pilbara was like that at the time. It was pretty rough and ready, and they were all people working in mining camps, and Red Dog himself. I think he thought he was another single single guy like all the other guys. He was mixing with. So he was like he used to hang around the guys that were drinking and carrying on and all that. And I really thought he was he thought he
Hi,
was.
go in. So we just have a table. Hello. Just open up inside there, like just in the cafe area. Brick number 2. Is that you?
Sorry, I'm just thinking. Yeah, where were we?
Yeah.
We'll have it out here.
About
Like mugs, like off of our area.
If there's one at the front.
Takeaway cups.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Sorry. We're
clearly,
getting coffee.
You're clearly well known there, are you?
No, we were getting our coffee order, but there was no room in the cafe, so there was a bit of an issue about taking the mugs outside the cafe. So I'm just sitting in the street just a little public place next to the cafe.
It's a good backdrop. You got that tree in the back of you.
Yeah, I should turn around. I should show it the other way, and you'll see the shops and all the people walking by.
It looks a bit windy though.
I'll just try and move it
No,
a little bit.
that's fine. There you are.
Just a little bit more. See the dog. It's right by the Bream Airport here, so you
Okay, well that's good.
get all the planes going overhead. But yeah, so where were we, Mike?
No, we were just talking about the books. So what I wanted to ask you is about that. So just tell us, is it when did you first actually meet Red Dog? When? What year was that? Way back.
He was born in Red Dog was born in Parabadoo in 1971, and I buried him I put him down in Roban and buried him at Cossack in 1979. So he was only about 8.5 years of age when he died. Thanks.
And when did he first turn up in your life?
When I was first there in beginning of 1975, so he was probably a 3 or 4 year old dog then, and then I sort of knew him for the rest of his life from then on.
Well, did people just bring him? I mean, he'd get injured, and people would just bring him into the practice, would they?
Yeah, or he'd bring himself in sometimes.
Why would he bring himself in? But if he was injured, he'd just come there.
He knew who I was and what I did, and he'd just rock up, or someone would bring him in. But he mostly came in to see me sort of socially.
Ah, okay. That's the part I'd like to see come through in your books, you know.
Yeah, well, that'll be book 4, and hopefully by then I'll be a better writer. I'm learning as I've gone, because this is the book 1's the first one I've ever written, and I did take it to Fremantle Press, my first manuscript, and the lady there just shook her head and said, "I'd advise you to go and do a writing course before you embark on a book." So I gathered from that she wasn't very impressed with my manuscript. So, but then I didn't go to a course, but I did go and tidy up a lot more and spent a lot of time rewriting it, and then finally I had an editor who did a really good job, because she didn't change any of my words, but she rearranged them a little bit better. And this is Victoria I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we had a few flaming arguments about what things she wanted me to change, but in the end I didn't change very much at all. But we did rearrange the sentences, because I guess that'd be my best tip for any aspiring writers, because if you're writing something, you know what you mean, but the reader may not necessarily know what you mean. So what I thought was just clear as day, and because I knew the story. Victoria would say, "Well, Rick, think of a writer that doesn't know this, a reader that doesn't know the story. How can they read your mind? You've got to spell it out to them, even if it sounds a bit laborious." So I agreed to that, and then it became plain to me that I was writing about things that were very clear in my mind, but the average reader may not have understood it.
So it sounds like she's more of a structural editor, what they call a structural editor, than a
I'd say so.
editor.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I hope you meet her and
No,
get
sure.
to talk to her about all that. Oh, I just got to stand up for a minute. You'll
Okay.
see the broom behind me here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can. I
it's
see the main
different
street there. Yeah.
You
So,
see my dog.
yeah.
You can see my dog there too. Margie's
Yeah,
there in the
I can
background.
see
So,
that.
yeah, it's the main
How old's that dog?
street of Broome. It's pretty nice being back here, I must admit. But the light might be so good. I'll go back to where I was. But yeah, I just had to stand up for a minute before our legs get a bit stiff and sore.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's Margie. Yeah, so where were we?
Yeah, and I'm just talking to you about your books and what. So, have you got a timeline on each of these, or what?
Oh,
They'll come out when they come out. Right?
Yeah, and it's really just a matter of getting it right. Book one, I was determined to get out in a bit of a hurry because it dragged on for so long, which is why I used Victoria to do the design and editing and get it happening. So we managed to get that out before Christmas 2020, I think it was. So it's been out for about a year and a half now. But then for subsequent books, I'm not going to put any pressure on myself. I'm just going to try and get it right. But I do hope to have book two out certainly by early next year, or middle of next year at the very latest. But I've got most of the three subsequent books are still in. Most of it's in my head. I've written most of book two, and I've already done a short story on which is the basis of book three. So I need to enlarge on that, and that's why I'm up in the Kimberley getting more material for book three. And most of book four, which is the Red Dog era, most of that is in my head and on notes and whatever. So like as I go, I'm making notes all the time under each of the books, and every day I have another thought or a memory, or meeting people here can remind you of certain instances and people, and yeah, so it's all ideas. So it's.
So do you like, as they say, do you have a structure do you have a structure you work to for your book, or do you sort of just write from your pants and just go?
The only structure is chronological, so I try and make it as chronological as possible, so that one thing leads to another. Because I guess the theme of all the books is development of this young guy. It started with a boy in book one. He was just a boy, but he had a dog, and he grows up a bit, and he finishes school and goes to uni. And then book two is all about that same uncertain youth at uni, and then gradually learning stuff from dogs and growing a little bit in confidence. And then that whole process continues. And book three is a new graduate, right back to the start of the school again almost, and then gradually getting experience. And then book four as a young man starting to make his way in life. So it is my life story.
As you get thoughts and notes, do you populate and say, well, that's going to go in book two, that's going to go in book four, that could be in book three? Yeah.
Yep. Same thing with photos. I've got all my photos sort of in crates. Book one, book two, book three, book four. And interesting, you said something before about book one, and because I think by this time next year I will have sold out of the 5,000 copies I had printed, and I'll hopefully then start working on book one again, second edition, and the second edition
Oh,
will
okay.
probably be much better. That's what you did. You were saying, will my books get better as they go? And the answer is, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so, and that's why I'll go back and rewrite book one, and hopefully it'll be a better book, even though book one has been very successful. I hope the second edition of book one will be bigger and better, and more material and photographs and things, stuff that I forgot to put in the original one.
So where did my editor? I know you've been talking to Karen McDermott of MMH Press,
Yep.
who's my publisher. How did you bump into her?
Through Victoria.
Oh, okay. Of course, her book's being published through there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the aeroplane.
So Rick, well, what do you plan to publish book two through MMH Press? Is that your plan?
Say again?
Book two, who are you going to publish that through?
I'm not sure. I got self-published book one and used Scott Print. With this one, if I develop a good working relationship with Karen McDermott, I may well use her facilities and whatever. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I certainly like the autonomy of self-publishing, so I can sell my book myself. I'm not dependent on other publishers trying to benefit out of it.
Yeah, I'm a bit. I had maybe a slightly different view on that. Is having been in business, all my working life, is that I figure out what I'm actually good at.
Yep.
And the things I'm not good at, what I call outsource. I get other people to do that.
Yep.
Pay them for it. And part of that publishing business, that's a whole other story. And I look at it and think, well, do I want to take myself away from the writing? Sorry,
Yep.
not for you to eat. Is it? Sorry, the puppy on the ground wants to eat another blanket. Anyway, no, not for you. Okay.
Well, you're right, and I've got this friend of mine, Greg Keynes, has written a book called The Flying Bushman, and he made virtually nothing out of it because he's the publisher, in his words, ripped him off, and he's very scarred by that. So I said, well, why don't you self-publish like I have, and then go and sell it yourself? And he said, oh, I just like writing. I don't like that other side of it. So I need someone to publish it and market it for me, and I just need to find someone who will do it a bit more fairly. And whereas I am different, I do like the selling. I actually even worked it out like this. To me, for a successful book, there's three components of a successful book. Number one is the creative, which is the thoughts, the ideas, the writing, the manuscript, the photographs, if there's any photographs in it. So the number one is creative. Number two is the production, which is probably the editing and design of the book, and the collating, and then obviously the printing, the whole production process. And you probably do need someone to do that for you, certainly the printing side of it. Although that's how Karen got started into publishing. And then the third part is the sales, marketing, distribution. Because unless you do that, there's no success in it. If there's no success, there's no money. If there's no money, you can't afford to write another one. So, to me, the three things are all interdependent.
No, I agree. So who helped you with the self-publishing?
Say again?
Who helped you with the self-publishing?
Oh, I just went to Scott Print, and Victoria had a bit of experience there too, so she helped me getting my ISBN number and all that sort of stuff, and getting all the legalities of it sorted out. And so happy to self-publish. The only thing about the sales is that I'm very well known in Western Australia. So this book has sold it's 2.5, nearly 3,000 copies in Western Australia alone, and probably 2 outside Western Australia and 1 outside Australia. So I do have a very narrow market, but I'm very well known after 50 years of working in Western Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got that leg up that I'm very well known as a vet and an identity of Western Australia. So people see my name and see the Red Dog. And it's the other advantage I've got is Red Dog himself, which is really mostly a Western Australian story. So in Western Australia, I've sold all those copies, but I'd dearly like to go outside Western Australia, and certainly within Australia to start with, and then maybe elsewhere. But that's where a publisher does come in who can then sell it to outlets. But the only problem with that is that number one, the publisher wants to make money out of it, and number two, the reseller, the bookshop, wants to make something out of it, and that's what happened to Greg Keen's. He found
there's a proper supply chain there, and everybody's taking a piece of the pie.
Everyone else did well. Everyone else did well except him, and he was probably lucky to get 50 cents per book, I think, at the end of the day. So, and he had no control over it, because I'd said to him, I mentioned you to him. I said, I'll send Mike a copy. He said, I don't even have a copy to give away to anyone, not even to my own family. The publisher owns all my books. I don't even own one. I have to buy a copy myself. So that was a bit sad.
That sounds a bad deal, yeah.
Because I've got the opposite problem. I've got I started off with 5,000 books in my spare room, and I'm slowly whittling them down. And like I said, I sold half of them. And my trip to Broome here, I'll sell a lot more.
So from Broome, where do you go to?
Depends on how much time I've got, but probably a little run up to the rest of the Kimberley if I've got time, and find some outlets and pick up some memories and stories from Derby, and maybe up to up the Gibb River Road if I've got time, up to Wyndham, and then back down through Halls Creek and Fitzroy Crossing. But I've got to be back on the 8th by the 8th of July for the Roban races, and but this is the first time I've been up here for 30 years. So Broome's a good start. I'm going to go to the markets probably tonight and on the weekend, and try and sell a few books at the Broome markets.
All right. Well, look, we've sort of come to the end of our time. It's been wonderful chatting to you, Rick.
Okay, great.
Okay, and I wish you well in your travels and in your writing. Right?
Thank you. And if anyone wants a book, then probably just Google me or whatever, and I'm sure that someone will find me. And I'm very happy for people to have my phone number, and call me direct. 0408 936 061. So if you want to publicise my details, my number, my email, I'll always talk to people.
I'll put them out there. So on my Facebook page, I'll do a bit of a write up and put your contact details.
I'm not very good on social media, by the way, but I do leave that to my staff to do it, because I know it's a necessary evil.
Most it is. Yeah. Okay, Rick. Great talking to you.
Mike, thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.